it again with Medicare for All, the ridiculously expensive socialistic healthcare system that is guaranteed to sink our economy. But who cares about economic flourishing? Healthcare is a right. Bernie grouses endlessly about high prescription drug prices that can largely be blamed on the FDA snuffing competition by arbitrarily bringing so few drugs to market. Of course, many of the presidential-ish Democrat dum-dums have signed on to Medicare for All because it makes them seem empathetic to endorse some pie-in-the-sky commie malarkey they know will never pass. And lying Liz Warren even shellacks this insurance turd, saying they're looking for the lowest cost way to make sure everybody gets covered. With what? Bed bugs when they're living in garbage cans from the mass homelessness? Things cost less when they're subjected to the agnostic and beautiful forces of the free market. Here are 4 questions these thick dolts need to answer honestly. Stat. 1. What will Medicare for All cost? 2. How are you going to pay for it? 3. What are you willing to cut? And 4. How do you plan on transitioning from a private to a public system? They have no answers for any of that. There will be no more private health insurance if Bernie and Kamala have their way. So all those unlucky suckers who work at Blue Shield will be out of work. They'll have plenty of time to spend all day going to free dumb doctors who stuck around in this lousy dystopian medical dramedy. You know what we can really expect with Medicare for All? Higher taxes, longer wait times, and worse care. In Canada, where they don't even have a public option for dental, vision, or rehab, the average wait time to see a specialist is 5 months. In Great Britain, tens of thousands of elderly Brits reportedly go blind waiting for cataract surgery because their cruel public system rations treatment, so many golden citizens wander into traffic because getting hit by a bus is a better option than wasting away in lonely darkness. This cruel shell game doesn't offer a social safety net. It is an oppressive and smothering blanket that will turn out to be as cataclysmic as it is humane. Good job, Bernie. Socialist Yoda will probably outlive us all. And that's the memo. Bernie does draw the line somewhere. Plastic surgery.
What happens to those insurance companies after your plan is implemented? Do they still exist?
If you want cosmetic surgery, under Medicare for All, we cover all basic health care needs, so they're not going to be there to do that. I suppose if you want to make yourself look a little bit more beautiful, you want to work on that nose, your ears, they can do that. But
so basically Blue Cross Blue Shield would be reduced to nose jobs?
Something like that.
That's great. That's really practical. Makes perfect sense. Sanders first brought this idea to the mainstream in 2016, but will it ever actually happen here in America? Let's ask tonight's panel. From the Greg Gutfeld Show, where she's the correspondent and National Review Online reporter, Kat Timpf is here, along with criminal defense attorney David Bruno, sue somebody today, and Reason.com managing editor Peter Suderman, Computerman, the world's foremost expert on healthcare and socialized medicine. Let's talk a little bit about Bernie's plan, because, you know, Bernie is making all these claims that somehow Medicare for All is now, it's going to cover everything. Places like the Netherlands, Australia, Canada, and Great Britain don't even cover, and, you know, it doesn't really have a plan to cover the bill.
Right. What Bernie Sanders is offering is a plan that is more comprehensive than any of the other single-payer systems that we see across the world. So when he says, well, of course, we should be able to do it because all of these other countries do it. No, what he's proposing goes far beyond what other countries do. What he's proposing also goes far beyond what today's Medicare does. And so when he says Medicare for All, it's not really Medicare for All. It would actually eliminate Medicare as we know it today, along with private insurance as we know it today. And so I think Bernie Sanders' plan is politically impossible and impossible from a practical policy perspective as well.
You can't implement it. There's absolutely
no way.
There's just
no way to get there, and he doesn't have answers to crucial questions there.
And that's a good point, because Jean Shaheen, who was a co-sponsor a couple years ago, has said there's no transition plan, therefore I can't back this. And they can't answer.
He wants to do all of this in 4 years.
Yeah.
Think about Obamacare, and Obamacare only affected a few million people, especially up front. And remember when the exchanges went online? They didn't work for months, and Obama basically had to order a special kind of government IT squad that broke all the rules in order to get it working again.
Yeah, and just one of the many reasons Obamacare completely sucks. But Bernie, you know, it's not only a fantasy plan, he's also being a little disingenuous with some of his facts.
Sure.
And he's saying that,
Here to fact check one thing. Here's a talking point right now. The Koch brothers funded a study that Medicare would save $2 trillion over 10 years. Inaccurate. Okay, because the Koch brothers, they donated money to the Mercatus Center at George Mason University. They had nothing to do with this study.
But the Mercatus Center, the economist there also said, like, this is a very conservative estimate.
Yes.
It's going to cost $3 trillion a year, $32 trillion over 10 years. Hospitals and doctors will conservatively have to take a 40% pay cut. Why would any of them stay in business, and why would anyone want to be a doctor?
Exactly. Not only did the Koch brothers not finance this, but he's coming out and saying Bernie is using assumptions that are just not realistic. It is not financially possible.
No, it's not. I mean, there's no way. And, you know, they talk about increasing the marginal tax rate on those earning more than $10 million a year and all these ways of funding it. But when he keeps adding to what Medicare for All might cover, it makes it impossible to really accurately score it.
I think that it is very unfair that nose jobs are not included. If you can't get a free nose job, what kind of country is this? In the third world? No, this is ridiculous. AOC Watch is going to come out with a plan that does include nose jobs for all. She's going to run under
even
nose
for
jobs
those unwilling to get nose jobs,
yes,
they're still going to get
mandatory nose jobs. USA.
Human right.
No, but I think people get health insurance and health care confused. We often talk about them as if they're the same thing, and they're not the same thing. You can have health care without health insurance, and you can also have health insurance and either get health care or not get the best health care the way that they have in a lot of other countries. The great thing about this system is that we do have this private option. I think that the government needs to be less involved, not more involved, because when the government is not involved in things, they get cheaper. That's just how it works.
Yes, and it was when the government inserted itself into this entire system, that's when it created this imbalance that more government will never, ever fully fix. Well, President Trump campaigned on draining the swamp and promised to do so, saying, quote, he's going to cut so much your head will spin. Well, that hasn't quite happened yet, but the Washington Post reports today the administration is now aiming to dismantle the $2.1 billion, 5,500-person Office of Personnel Management. Yes, it's responsible for managing the federal civilian workforce. Treasury Department just reported today that the deficit for 2019 projected to top $1 trillion. The OPM would be the biggest agency to get slashed since World War II. Is this a good place to start?
Look, I'm all for cutting federal agencies. I would like to see a long list of them from anyone who is running for president, anyone who is president, anyone who could ever talk to the president. On the other hand, this just doesn't get us very far. OPM is a $2 billion agency. We have a $4 trillion budget. This is not even a percentage point in the context of the overall budget. And in addition, they're not talking about firing all of the 5,000 or so workers who work for OPM. What they say is, well, actually, we're going to reassign these people to other things. And maybe
we're not going to fill
vacancies,
vacancies, and some people retire, and the others will be absorbed by other agencies.
So it will be a staff reduction somewhat over time, slowly. But this really is a drop in the bucket. And if you want to make a big dent in the federal budget, you got to go after the entitlements. You got to go after
maybe it's
Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security.
Amen. Hallelujah. And you don't make those plans bigger because once you have relations with the cat, you can't unhave relations with the cat.
Isn't that the truth?
That's what my grandmother used to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we could also cut some Department of Defense funding. That's pretty bananas.
Some redundancies, perhaps?
Yes, and then also that's the report that came out that they spent $4.6 million on lobster and crab in a single month last year.
Wow.
Like,
That's a great job.
I love being safe. I love all that, but maybe like eat a turkey sandwich once in a while like the rest of the world. I also would love to abolish one you forgot is the FCC. Sure. I think we could just let the market decide what is and is not acceptable to see on TV.
Stossel has said for years we should abolish the FDA. Thomas Massey has put forward a bill many times to get rid of the Department of Education. Department of Commerce, it was on the cover of Reason. That's got to go.
Most of the functions of the FCC could be done that are actually crucial that anybody would care about could be done by the FCC.
My mom could do them. And, you know, she's...
I meant the things that won't let me, the part where I'm not allowed to say my favorite words on TV.
We're running out of time.
I'm here. Hello.
Hi.
I think these are all good ideas, but unfortunately, he's going to need Congress to do it. I mean, he's got broad constitutional authorities for the executive branch, but when it comes to funding and scope of responsibility, he's going to need Congress.
You know what he needs? He needs more libertarians in Congress.
And he needs
more rational people making laws who don't care if they're ever reelected again, who know how to actually trim the size.
Yep.
Of the federal
You need to change how it's made up, and you need the votes to get it done.
Yeah, I'll give you votes. I'll take them from wherever. Twice, maybe 6,000 times. You're looking at me like that's illegal.
6,000 seems like a lot of votes.
You'd have a very busy day.
Very busy day. I would never be able to carpool that much. Peter, David, and Kat, thank you all so much. Very good.